Hello, my love, and welcome to the Energy Expansion Podcast. I am your host, Dani Kenney, and if you're new here, we are so happy to have you. If you are one of our loyal listeners, welcome back. I am really excited to dive into this with you today, and I was just telling the women inside of Energy Expansion Academy who are here live, because we gather live for a podcast recording once a month or so, and the other ones I record solo. And I have to tell you that it is my favorite when I get to do this in community with the women inside of our DKC Soul Fam. And what I was saying was, I cannot believe that this is going to be in the high 80s. This will probably be episode 87 or 88, and we haven't recorded a podcast episode specifically about what it means to be an empath. To be an empath has to do with the way that the energy around us impacts us. And this was inspired by one of the women inside of Energy Expansion Academy. We do a weekly live Q&A every single week. And there was a question that came through specifically around being an empath and being a parent and how to navigate specific things. And it made me realize, as I was prepping for today, we need to have an episode about this. And it's interesting because I know what it means to be an empath to me. And I feel like I absolutely am an empath. I don't think that I would have a signature program called Energy Expansion Academy. We wouldn't have a podcast called the Energy Expansion Podcast. I wouldn't have dedicated over a decade of my life to the type of work that I do if I wasn't an empath, if I didn't have an awareness and couldn't actually feel energy. But I was also telling the women who are here live today that we're going to be using more notes today. Most of the time, we just riff, we just channel, we say whatever comes through, and we trust that it is good enough. And it is always good enough. It's always more than good enough. But I know that there's actual science to this, and I've never really gone down the rabbit hole. I've just kind of gone off of vibes and understanding principles of how energy works and universal laws that govern the unseen realms. But those same realms are the one that help determine the kind of life we experience and how we move through the world. And if we like the way something is going, what types of energetic dynamics we can lean into. And then almost more importantly, when things are not going the way that we want them to, how can we make those changes? How can we really be at cause for the kind of experience that we desire? And this is an important conversation. This applies to our home life, how we interact with our partners, with our families, with our children. This absolutely applies to our professional life, how we show up in the world, the work that we are here to do. If you create content, the energy that goes into that content, it connects to our financial situation, our health. Well over a year ago, I didn't record any specific episodes about this, but there was a season where everything energetically felt really heavy for me. And this was, I'm 39. I just turned 39 a month ago. I've had many seasons of life where things felt harder and heavier than I wanted them to. But it was the beginning part of last year, which at the time of this live recording was 2025. And if you were tuning in, you might have heard me talk about this extra weight that I was carrying, this heaviness that was represented energetically and how I felt as I was moving through the world, but like also in my body, my physical body, not feeling at home in my body. And so all of this impacts this conversation around energy and how real and powerful this is. It applies to every area of our life. And I want to talk about what it means to be someone who is highly sensitive to energy. And there are different terms. And I was really going down the rabbit hole, which as a 1-3 line in human design, that's like my favorite thing, is to get interested in something and then want to know everything about it. And so I was digging into, what does it actually mean? Like, what is the true definition around being an empath? There's also something known as an HSP, which is a highly sensitive person. And I've heard those terms be used interchangeably. And so I'm Googling, like, are empath and HSP the same thing? And so I actually really want to get into the nitty-gritty of some of this with you. I was learning all kinds of things and I was like, okay, my people, I think we're going to be pretty interested in this. And then we're going to talk about if you are an empath, if you are a highly sensitive person, which they're different things, but there's a level of overlap with them. And then we're going to talk about what do you do with that information? How can you more powerfully navigate your life experience? And so there's some really simple practices. And there's also some things that I'm excited to share with you that have made a world of a difference in my own life experience. Let's start with what is an empath? And I'm going to be reading directly off of my notes because we've got statistics and research and science things and doctors, and it's all very interesting. We're not getting too in the weeds to where you're going to fall asleep. Although we were just talking about how the Schumann resonance is off the charts and a lot of people are tired. So maybe you will fall asleep and that's okay. I've heard that my voice is very soothing. So do with this episode what you will. The term empath, if you think about it, it's kind of a no-brainer, comes from the word empathy. It's the ability to understand the experiences and feelings of others that might not be your own. But as an empath, you take it a step further and you can actually sense and feel those emotions inside of your own experience as if they are your own, even though they're not. And so you can we're just like the first bullet point here, you can see how being an empath in a lot of ways is a gift. Like, what a beautiful thing to be able to feel what other people are feeling. Like, that really truly does feel like a gift. And also on the other side of that, how incredibly confusing and overwhelming, right? The work that I do with my people, especially after this week, just have to shout it out, 24 hours ago, officially graduated my master practitioner certification. And so that just means I'm like really in it at this point, all the certifications, all the things, all the learnings. And thank you for the claps. Thank you for the applause. I'm feeling so excited about this. And a part of this was somatics, understanding the way that energy is stored in the body and trauma is stored in the body. And I'll never forget the first time I had a healing session, and you might be here live or you might be listening to the podcast episode whenever we choose to release it, and had someone else ask you this. Maybe I asked you this, but it's quite confronting when you've never thought about this before and someone says, oh, is that actually your experience? And it's like, wait, what? Like, of course. At first glance, you think, of course it's my experience. Otherwise, I wouldn't be feeling this. And that actually couldn't be further from the truth. Most of the time, I'm thinking of something known as time techniques, which are my absolute favorite. There's so many things that are my favorite. TIME is an acronym for Time Integration for Maximum Empowerment. And when we're working specifically to release old frequencies like anger, fear, hurt, sadness, guilt, shame, whatever it might be, those are like the main things that we typically release, or old limiting beliefs, I ask you a question. Some of you are going to like smile because this is going to feel familiar. Some of you are going to think that this sounds absolutely crazy, but it is real. It is proven. Time techniques, I'm trained to use them in 6 different of the most common ways, but it's actually so powerful and proven to work that it's its own form of therapy. There's something known as time therapy. And when you're doing time techniques, you ask the person in front of you, the person you're working with, as you're discovering the root cause, you say, was it before, during, or after your birth? Meaning the thing that you picked up, the anger in this case, like the anger, the first experience of anger on your timeline. So think about that for a second. Was it before, during, or after your birth? Your conscious mind 100% of the time is going to want to say, oh, it was after. It was when I was 12 years old and my mom told me I couldn't do the thing that I wanted to do. But there's 2 other options. It could be before your birth or during your birth. And so unconsciously in our body, in our bones, in our DNA, we remember things from before we were born. So if someone says it was before my birth, we then go on and we say, okay, great. Was it past life or was it generational? Sometimes, actually more than a handful of times, because I've been practicing these tools since 2019, so I've done this hundreds of times, people will say, I think it was both, which can be the case. So then we follow whichever path is further back. But where I'm going with this, when we're talking about being an empath, and is that actually your experience? This is a slightly different flavor of this conversation, but it's quite fascinating because if you picked up something 4 generations ago from your mother's 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 mother, right? What you realize as we're mining the lessons, we say, what lessons does your subconscious mind need to learn from that so that you can release that once and for all? If it did not happen from a direct experience related to you, what the lesson is most of the time is that was never meant for you to carry. That wasn't yours to carry. That is the flavor, a little piece of what it feels like to be an empath, to have this realization that you are picking up some of what has been happening around you. Your partner or a parent coming home in a really bad mood, and all of a sudden, you were having an amazing day, and now your energy shifts. Hello, empath. Hello, highly sensitive person. It's also when you walk into a room and you can feel your energy shifting. It goes beyond just the room, the physical spaces that you're in, with communities like Energy Expansion Academy. And I learned this a really long time ago as I've been leading groups for years. If there is insane stuff happening in our collective consciousness, hi, welcome to the last 6 years, consistently, relentlessly, the most insane things happening at this point in time. You will very likely pick those up as an empath, okay? So we went really far. We're gonna have to go a little quicker because we just got to the first bullet point and there's like 25 bullet points, so we're gonna have to skip a bunch of them. Let's see. I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. Oh, you'll relate to this. So there is someone named Dr. Judith Orloff, and she's the pioneer around this research, and she describes empaths as people who absorb the joys and the stresses of life like emotional sponges. Empaths often lack filters that most people have to protect themselves from excessive stimulation. So again, when I was talking about this before, I didn't use this terminology, but I'm going to use it now. It's a blessing in some ways, and it's also a curse. I really truly feel like it's the greatest gift to be a deep feeler. I feel like that's why I'm on the planet. You'll often hear me say that I believe first and foremost, we are not human beings. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And with that, I believe that we came and said, I want to feel all of the things. And then myself and so many of the people I work with said, I want to feel all the things and I want to feel them as deeply as possible. I want to feel the highest highs. And why would we say this? But also the lowest lows. And we don't have that same filtering. And so there's a gift in it, but it's also a curse, because it can be so overwhelming to have that in your energy field. Your energy field composes the space within you and the space around you. So that is what it means to be an empath. Let's talk about a highly sensitive person. So a highly sensitive person is someone who has a sensitive nervous system and is aware of the subtleties in their surroundings and is more easily overwhelmed in highly stimulating environments. And so they're empaths and highly sensitive people are not the same thing, but there's absolutely these overlaps. And Dr. Elaine, Aron, who started the research, I'm pretty sure she's the one who coined the term highly sensitive person in the 1990s. She developed a 4-part framework, and it's called the DOES framework. So the D is depth of processing. O is overstimulation. So that feeling of being overwhelmed when too much is happening. E is emotional reactivity and empathy. Kind of touched on that a little bit. And then S is for sensitivity to subtleties. So here's what Dr. Elaine, her work goes on to say. Many HSPs are also empaths, but there is a difference. Having a high degree of empathy is just one of the 4 traits of someone who's an HSP. So that's really the difference, is that framework. The framework that consists of those 4 characteristics. That's the difference. And I'll make sure that those are in the show notes, because some of you are going to relate to every single one of these, and then there's going to be bits and pieces for some of you. So all right, love, real quick pause because I have to tell you about something that is truly life-changing. If you've been in my world for any amount of time, then there is a 99.9% chance that you have heard me talk about Energy Expansion Academy, which is my signature group coaching program where I teach the exact tools, rituals, mindset shifts, That helped me create a life that goes beyond my wildest dreams and has transformed the lives of hundreds of women that I've had the honor of serving. And for the first time ever, it is now available as a self-paced experience. That means you get to move through this powerful transformation on your own terms, in your own timing, and in full alignment with your life. This is for the woman who's ready to shift her energy, elevate her mindset, and finally become the most confident, fulfilled, and successful version of herself. Without the hustle, without the overwhelm, and without the second guessing. If you've been feeling the nudge to join us inside of EEA, then this, my love, is your sign. You'll find the link in the show notes or just DM me EEA on Instagram and I'll personally send it your way. Now, let's get back to the episode that you came for. How do you know if this is you? You probably could already pinpoint some of these. You probably came to this room, this episode knowing this, but here are some direct signs and characteristics. So if you're an empath, you often know what people are feeling before they tell you. It's like we could play that game of like, hey, put up 5 fingers, put down 1 finger. If you often know what people are feeling before they tell you, you can feel their feelings without needing to hear them say a single word. You feel overwhelmed or drained in crowds. And before the end of this episode, we're going to talk about some practices so that you don't have to feel this way. It makes me sad when my husband's kind of this way where like he gets very overwhelmed in crowds. I think he's more HSP than empath. There's sometimes I'm like, I really, sir, wish you'd have some more empathy, but geez, Louise, you really don't like crowds. So there's different pieces here. And there are energetic practices that we can use to protect ourselves and our energy. And I think that's more important for empaths than anyone else. And we can forget that. We can neglect our energy bodies, which is not a good idea. Another sign is you absorb others' moods like a sponge. I used to do this and I don't do this anymore because I have an awareness. And so if this information is new or even new-ish to you, this podcast episode could be a total game changer for you because we're going to give you tools of how you can move through the world differently. These subtle differences and invitations are going to be really powerful. You might be seen as moody, or people might say like, oh my goodness, you're overly sensitive because how easily things outside of you impact you and then how you move through the world changes. I'm using moody in air quotations. If you can't see me, I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but that might be how you feel or how people describe you. You can also remember, we're talking about what it means to be an empath. You're often the peacemaker. I'm going to raise my hand for that one. And this is not, as much as we all like peace, this is not necessarily a good thing always. The peacemakers can really easily, we can abandon ourselves. We often avoid conflict because we don't like to feel any quote unquote bad energy, or if we know that a certain conversation is going to create tension or conflict, we want to avoid that because we don't like how it makes us feel, which again, that's not necessarily a very empowering way to move through the world. But if you try to avoid conflict, that's part of what an empath does because the energy that we feel is so real. You might also need a lot of alone time to recharge, feel incredibly drawn to nature. I hope that we all are because I believe that nature is medicine. And again, you may avoid big crowds or being in really busy spaces. Lastly, here it says you have trouble setting boundaries, often feeling emotionally drained and can find it hard to separate your feelings from other people's, which was kind of how we defined what it means to be an empath. Okay, this is so good. If you're listening and you're still like, okay, I'm hearing what you're saying, Dani, but I'm kind of confused about empaths versus what it means to be an HSP, a highly sensitive person. We're going to take this even deeper. This is super helpful. So signs that you may be an HSP is that you're more sensitive to sensory stimulus, things in your environment like lights, smells, sounds, touch, social stimuli like meeting new people or receiving criticism, and emotional stimuli. Okay, so you see there's sensory stimuli, there's social stimuli, and then emotional stimuli, which is like just receiving other people's feelings. Also having a hard time being able to be with your own feelings. You can take longer to wind down after a busy day. Your ability to transition from one environment to another one can feel more challenging or harder than it might feel for other people. You notice particular details like textures, moods, sounds, energies that most other people, it wouldn't be in their awareness. Like most other people wouldn't notice it, but you do. And you process experiences really deeply. So you might be thinking about conversations days later and really wanting to understand them. It's almost like there's this energetic and emotional calculation that's happening of like wanting to put the pieces together, where someone who's not a highly sensitive person has already forgot about that interaction. They've already moved on. They're not going to think about it again. And it's really stuck with you. So those are some characteristics, again, for the umpteenth time. You're going to notice this overlap, but there are some subtleties. So let's talk a little bit about the energetic practices around this. And I want you to think about where you want to experience more harmony in your own physical body, in your own emotional state, in your energy. I'm going to share with you what a blessing it is to be married to someone who is my total opposite. It's cliche, but true. I'm curious if you feel this. It's not true for everybody, but there is something to that old adage, that old saying that opposites attract. It's like this magnetism that gets created, the magnetism through the polarity. I don't even know how that works. That's so contradictory, but it's true. Me and my husband are so opposite, and because of our opposites, we fit together really, really well. I feel like I'm incredibly empathetic. And my husband, that's not a natural gift of his, but even just yesterday, I was like, hey, I'm feeling something off here. And before it turns into some really uncomfortable blowout, which is interesting because me and my husband will be celebrating 15 years of marriage on July 1st, which is just over a month. We've never had a blowout fight. Thank the Lord. No name calling. There's never yelling. But I feel like the ways that me and my husband unintentionally, maybe sometimes a little bit intentionally, hurt each other is through the unseen, through the unspoken. It's like through the felt. It's through the withholding. I have noticed that I have this pattern, not a helpful pattern. It's a protective pattern where if I'm afraid of being hurt, I withhold. I pull away my energy and I pull away my love. And I understand and I can see and love the part of me who feels like that's protecting me. But when we withhold love, when we pull away, and I do this in my marriage, I've done this in my business over the years. I know you know that if you've launched something and you've put something out there and you feel like you're giving so much of yourself and you're not being met in that energetically, what do you want to do? You want to pull away. I know that I cannot be alone in this. And so that withholding from my community, that withholding in my marriage, I think is actually helping me and protecting me. But really what it's doing is it's hurting me. It's harming me. It's pulling me further away from the thing that I actually want, which is connection, which is meaningful conversation, which is impact, which is harmony, which is resolution. And now I'm going on and on about this one little sliver called the way that we can energetically withhold, but this is one of many patterns. And so going on this tangent, really giving you a glimpse into the way that me and my husband experience conflict, which is not my favorite, but what we'll do, I swear, I'm going to get there with you. I'm going to take you there right now. What ends up happening is there's no explosive anything. There's no yelling. There's no like blowout arguments. But what ends up happening is we both turn away from each other and we get quiet and we disconnect. And sometimes it'll be for a few hours. In other moments and instances, it'll be for a few days. What's really impressive, I should not be proud of this, but like it's pretty impressive. As parents of 3 kids, we have gone over a week before. I think the longest we've gone is 8 or 9 days. And I don't like that, but we both have this energy of like, I'm not going to give in and he's not going to give in and we're just going to hold it there. And then I am always the one to give in because the empath in me cannot take it. I pretend that it doesn't bother me, but it's eating me alive because I can feel the energetic dynamic, and I'm pretty sure he can too, but I feel it even more deeply. And I know that I'm not alone. I have a feeling everybody listening can see themselves either in this exact kind of situation or in your own dynamics that play out. And where I'm going with this is yesterday, I could feel that we were energetically and emotionally missing the mark with each other. And it was the teeniest, tiniest things. And I felt my feelings. I could feel that my feelings were getting hurt. And it wasn't anything big. He wouldn't have known if I didn't say anything. And my natural energetic response would be to turn away and disconnect energetically, like physically and energetically. And I didn't want to do that because I don't like that. And so what I did instead was I gave him a hug. I did the opposite of what the immature little Dani in me, who I love so much, wanted to do. So instead of turning and walking away and disconnecting, what did I do? I got closer. I leaned in physically and energetically. I put my arms around him and I looked up at him and I said, hey, is there something that you want to say to me? Because I feel like over the last 24 hours, there's these little remarks and they're feeling like digs and they're feeling like criticism. And I don't even think you know that you're doing it, but it's really hurting my feelings. And if we don't squash this in the bud, then I'm going to start withdrawing. And we don't like when I do that. And so he looked at me and you could tell he didn't even have a conscious awareness of this. Fam, I'm sharing this with you because this is how powerful the energetic dynamic is. It's often running without anyone realizing that it's happening. And so he said, you're right, I have been a little frustrated. And he shared with me what was going on. And I said, oh, okay. You know what he was wanting? His love language, his top love language is my bottom love language. It's physical touch. Some of y'all know what's going on. So because I wasn't meeting him energetically and also physically in the way that he wanted to, he started to feel rejection. And it started to come up and out in ways that he wasn't even aware of. And so I said, do you see how what you're doing is pushing me further away and it's getting you further away from what you actually want? And so that was a very long tangent. And I'm hoping, again, you can see yourself in this. But number one is I really want to invite you to start being aware of what are the energetic dynamics that are at play. Some of the energetic dynamics at play in the areas of your life that matter most to you are really helpful and supportive, and some of them are not. And I really took you through that play by play by play so you could see. I shared with you what we used to do, what doesn't actually feel good, and the new choices that I was making. And all of that was to say that I used to take on my husband's very different energy than mine. We have very different energetic baselines, and I would notice that I would get swept up in it. And it was really energetically draining. Whatever is happening in that man's mind and in his heart, bless him, but that's his, that's not mine. And so what I started doing was when we were interacting, I was imagining. I can't actually see energy with my own eyes. And I say that because some people actually can see energy. There are people, I have clients who through our work together have unlocked their own intuitive superpowers and can literally see colors around people, can see energetic auras, can see energy moving. I don't see energy, but I feel it. I can be doing a one-on-one session with somebody. I can be in a group environment and I will feel things in or around my body. And so what would happen is he would come in from the day, I had the best day ever, and he didn't have a very good day. And I would be way more mindful of my own energy bubble. And I would notice what he was saying or notice what he was feeling, notice what he was bringing to the space. And I could see him in that lovingly, but I made myself an energetic promise that I was not going to take that on as my own. So number one here is turning up the dial on your energetic and emotional awareness. There's something that we've talked about before in other ways. We've never talked about it in this way before energetically, but this concept of taking radical responsibility for your choices, for your actions, for what you're creating, for what's working, for what's not working in your life. And this absolutely applies to energy. especially, my love, if you are an empath and or a highly sensitive person. You taking your energy, your boundaries, what you are open to receiving and what you are not, taking that seriously is really, really important. And if you've never done that before, that alone is going to start changing your life. You remembering that you get to be the thermostat, you set the baseline, and nothing and no one outside of you can mess with your energy. That's literally a way for you to start setting that boundary. Another recommendation here is be really mindful about what are the things, the habits, the activities, the people, the places that drain your energy, and what are the ones that fill you up? And can you reorient the way that you do things to make sure that there's less energy drains? Sometimes with friends, I know that we all have them and we hopefully filter them out, or we set an energetic boundary, or we minimize our time around them. But there's people known as energy vampires, and energy vampires don't mean to be energy vampires on purpose, but how you know you're with an energy vampire is you're getting ready to be with someone, be in connection with someone. You're going, you're feeling good, you're having a great day, you're high vibe. And then after that interaction, you're walking away and you're like, I need to sleep for like a year. What the hell just happened? I'm completely depleted. That is an example of what it feels like to have your energy drained. Something else that I really like to do is this concept of creating energetic bookends to your day. Being mindful of how you start your day and how you end your day energetically is really helpful. And if I had the luxury of having a 90-minute morning routine, I absolutely would. But as a mom of 3, and to top it off, my kids are officially on summer break, I don't have 90 minutes. But even just having a few minutes to yourself right now in this season of life, I'm going to share these things with you. What you may or may not be able to practice, this first part I'm going to share with you, but I was recently attuned in Reiki's level 1 and 2. And so upon the attunement in the type of Reiki that I was trained in, you're invited to take yourself on a 21-day self-healing journey. And you do self-Reiki, which is a little different than when you're doing a Reiki session with someone. You do it a little different when you're doing it on yourself. You can do this in the morning, afternoon, evening. I like to do it in the morning. And so as I'm doing that, I'm also grounding my energy and protecting my energy. And stay to the very end of this episode because I'm going to teach you a way to do that. So that's a form of how you can start your day, a very simple energetic practice. We also have something here in the DKC world. I'm going to share it with you. I'm going to gift it to you totally free. I don't have a fancy funnel or opt-in for it, but I'll drop the link below in the show notes for our Grand Rising activation. I think it's like 9 minutes and 22 seconds, and it's a beautiful energetic awareness, breathing, gentle movement, gratitude, and journaling. It sounds like a lot, but somehow in the span of less than 10 minutes, we get it all done, and it is seamless and very effective. And at the end of the day, I feel like I have even less time and energy and capacity at the end of the day for any sort of like special practice. It can literally look like you closing your eyes, taking a few deep breaths, and then intentionally dropping anything that got stuck to your energy field. Like 1, 2, 3, snap your finger. Anything that got stuck to your energy field, we release it. We send it down into the earth. Like that's how simple the book ending can be. It can be 60 seconds in the morning, protecting your energy, 60 seconds in the evening, releasing anything that's not actually yours. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Highly sensitive people are often drawn to being out in nature. There's something so healing, so relaxing, cleansing, even activating in all of the right ways about being out in nature. It's a way to come back to wholeness and equilibrium with yourself, with your spirit, with your most natural state. And so being out in nature can be a really beautiful energetic practice. There's something known as earthing. Literally just putting your bare feet on the earth is a really great way. I think it's technically supposed to be with grass. I have turf or cement, so do what you can with what you have and you're going to make it work great. What else do I have here? Some of these notes. Oh, physical practices to move energy. The 3 most powerful things we could do physically is to welcome in breath, sound, and movement. Breath, sound, and movement are some of the fastest, easiest, most effective ways to move, to release, to clear, to cleanse energy. Movement could be jumping up and down, shaking your body. You can get a fancy vibration plate. You don't need one of those, but I have one and I love it. Let me know if you want the link for that. It could be exercising. It can be dancing if I didn't already say that. Sound can be making your own sound. It could be humming. It could be shouting. It can be singing. It can be speaking out loud, getting the thing off of your chest. Again, we have several of our EEA babes here right now. Sending your mentor, your coach, your bestie a voice note, verbally processing the thing is a way to release it. And then breath. There's so many powerful ways to use our breath. Our breath is a direct connection to spirit. Breath itself translates to prana in other languages, which is life force, that spirit energy. One of the fastest ways to connect to our truest state is through our breath. And so you can do a longer, fancy breathwork practice, which I'm now certified in. This is so fun to get to say these things. It could also just be some simple box breathing. It could be, when I was feeling anxiety as a new mom, I would literally just stop wherever I was, feel my feet on the ground, and take just a couple of deep, intentional cleansing breaths. And that is so incredibly powerful for creating the shifts that we're needing at any given moment. So those are some of my favorite energetic practices. I promised you that before we wrapped up today, I was going to teach you a few things. These are things that I actually cannot take credit for. I'm going to share something known as the 4 rings of light, which is a form of energetic protection. This is something that she's one of our past DKC clients. She's an energy healer. Her name is Gina. She works specifically with emotion code, energy code, and belief code. Those are some of her modalities, and she weaves in some other really powerful energy healing. And I have to tell you, actually, what inspired her to share this with me was, if you've been following me for a while, then you'll know that it was 2 summers ago. That's so crazy. The summer of 2024, I went to Greece. I was solo for the first 4 or 5 days. And then the second leg of the trip, I matched it up so that I could attend a retreat for a mastermind that I was in. But while I was traveling, really early on, like before I even got to my destination, when I was at the airports, I was noticing a lot of funky energy. And I was 99% sure that the energy wasn't mine. And so I reached out to Gina. And so she taught me this practice that I'm going to teach you. I was doing this multiple times a day, every day, especially because where I was in Greece, I was at the Acropolis, which has been there. Gosh, I forgot all the historical things, but it's been there for a really long time. There's a lot of energy there. There's a lot of people, but also the history, like in the land, carries a lot. And it felt like a lot for my body, for my energy body. It felt very overwhelming. And so what I'm going to teach you right now is what Gina so lovingly sent me in a voice note app, was like, do this multiple times a day. So I was literally doing this anytime I was changing locations or feeling like the energy was overwhelming. I was doing this every day, multiple times a day. I'm now doing this once a day as part of my self Reiki healing practice. So when I'm talking about something quick you can do to bookend your days, you can literally just do this. And I'm going to weave in another practice. So there's 2 I'm going to teach you, and we're going to do them really quickly here together. And I want to be really thorough so that you know how to use these. But something else that Gina, we got to love our Gina, taught me, especially when there was weird things happening in my home, not really my home, but the land. If you have not been listening to the podcast for a long time, go back to maybe episode 18 or 19. It's called Healing the Land. Prepare to have your entire mind blown. But there was weird energy that I was feeling. My empathic body was absorbing energy from the land, and I did not understand what was going on. I was feeling emotions that were very confusing. I thought I was losing my ever-loving mind, and hired Gina and a couple of other healers to assist me. And this is where I was taught the very simple, very powerful practice of something known as running your energy. So I'm going to walk you through these right now, and I'm going to do them with you. So let's start with running your energy. And the thing that I love about running your energy, which I now pair with these 4 rings of protective light. I'm teaching you the 4 rings of protective light so that you have one way. There's so many ways, but one way to really truly protect your energy. I pair these together and they're so simple. Once you learn how to do them, you could do them in literally 60 seconds. You could actually do them in however long it takes you to breathe 4 breaths. So, little tutorial. We'll start with running our energy. So what it means to run our energy is at the very base of your spine. This is the energetic center known as your root chakra. There's an invitation for you, and only do this if this feels right and aligned for you. But I want to invite you to imagine dropping an energetic cord down from the base of your spine all the way down into the earth, all the way down to the center of the earth. Why are we doing this? Because our root chakra is the very first energy center. It is our sense of safety, security, stability. It is the foundation from which we move. And then we're dropping this down into the earth because the earth, Mother Nature, is the most effective healer. There is no other energy quite like nature that can take, alchemize, and transmute, meaning completely release and shape shift. And so I want to invite you, if you want to close your eyes, you can, but imagine now this energy cord, if you have not done so already, dropping down from the base of your spine down into the earth, taking a few deep breaths, and specifically as you're exhaling, imagining releasing and sending down any energy. There might be certain things that you're able to name right now. Maybe you want to send down any level of exhaustion. Maybe you've been feeling excessive fear, worry, overwhelm. Maybe you've been overstimulated, talking about what it means to be a highly sensitive person, anxiety, depression, heaviness, sadness, grief, whatever it might be. If you can name it, you can imagine, you can say it out loud, you can speak it quietly to yourself as you send it down. The other thing I want you to know is you can do this every day and not even know what it is you're releasing. You don't have to name anything. You can trust that you're going to send your energy. Sometimes I will literally just say anything and everything that is not mine. Anything that I've picked up that I picked up unintentionally and I wasn't meant to carry, anything that I'm holding, anything that I have been carrying that is no longer serving me, anything inside of my body, inside of my energy field that is not actually serving my highest good, I send that down now. I release, 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 release. So again, once you understand how this works, you can do this very quickly, but we're going to let that grounding cord stay there for now. You can do this seated. You can also do this on the go. I'm a master at this now. It's so simple. I'll sometimes do it as I'm moving through my house. And so we're going to allow this grounding cord to do what it's doing. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to put in any effort. It can be helpful to visualize. But as this grounding cord is moving, what we're now going to do is we're going to welcome in these 4 lights of protection. I'm going to walk you through this so that you can prepare your energy field and your ability to visualize. So the first thing we're going to welcome in, and I'll walk you through exactly how to do this, but we're going to welcome in a gold light. This gold ball of light, which is going to come in through our crown chakra, come down to our heart, and then move out just in front of us and create a beautiful ring around us. This light represents what I associate with as God. You can call this life force energy. You can call this the divine. You can call this creator. To me, this is the energy of God. This is the highest energy of creation and divinity. Right after that, we're going to welcome in a white light, which is the light that represents everything from the angelic realm, all good, beautiful, benevolent spirits. If there are any ancestors, loved ones who have crossed over, you can imagine them in this ring of light as well. Just beyond that, we're going to welcome in a beautiful ball of blue light. And on the end of that blue light facing away from you is a mirror. And that's going to allow anything that tries to come into your energy field that is not for you, it's going to allow it to just bounce right off. And this last ring of light is going to be fire. And this ring of fire is going to make it nearly impossible for anything that is not in your highest good to even come into your energy field. So this grounding is continuing to happen, this running of your energy, this releasing. And as that is happening, I'm going to invite you now to take a deep breath. And as you breathe in, You're going to notice this gold light coming in as you inhale down from your crown chakra, landing in your heart. And then as you exhale, this gold light is going out just in front of your heart. And with your next breath, it's going to make a beautiful ring around you. Seeing, feeling, sensing that gold light. And with your next breath, you're going to notice this beautiful white light at the very top of your head, your crown chakra. As you breathe in, you're breathing that into your heart. And then as you exhale, you're pushing that out just beyond that gold ring of light. And now this beautiful white light is making a ring of energetic protection around you. With your next breath, we're going to notice that beautiful blue ball of energy moving down now through your crown into your heart. As you exhale, you're going to push that out just beyond the gold light, just beyond the white light, and it's going to move around you. And remember, on the outer part of this ring is this beautiful mirror, which is going to make sure that anything that is not meant for you bounces off. And then just for good measure, we're going to welcome in this ball of fire, breathing it down through your crown chakra into your heart. And as you exhale, you're pushing it all the way out beyond the gold ring, out beyond the white ring, out beyond the blue ring, the mirror. And this beautiful ring of fire is now going to surround you, this fourth and final outer ring of protection. And we're going to hold those there. We're going to set the intention that those are going to be there with you for the rest of the day. And that if at any point in time you feel like they've lost some of their power, you've gotten distracted, you've gotten swept up in whatever space you're in, whatever conversation you're in, you're welcome to imagine this, to intend these rings to come right back. Taking a few deep breaths, feeling your own sense of power, enjoying what it feels like to be in your own energy, free from anything that is not yours, that is not meant for you, that you weren't intended to hold or carry. And now with your next few breaths, we're going to lovingly imagine that grounding cord being released from your root chakra and then just dropping down into the earth, knowing that you have unlimited access. You can call on this grounding cord. You can drop as many grounding cords as you need every single day, moment by moment, for as long as you live. A few more deep breaths here, noticing what you're feeling. I hope that you're enjoying this. It feels like such a treat. The women in my world, this is not new to them. This is something that we revisit every so often. This tutorial, like an actual video tutorial of doing this, is inside of Energy Expansion Academy, both the live coaching program as well as the self-paced option. We've got different forms of energetic protection. We've got different forms of grounding. We've got different audios and hypnosis experiences for just about anything that you can dream up. Little treat, little Easter egg for my EEA babes. I just recorded, they did not know that this was coming, but I just recorded a brain healing activation for anyone who is feeling a little mentally foggy or fuzzy or having a hard time remembering things or not feeling completely clear. That is going to drop in before the end of the month. So get excited about that. And to everybody tuning in on the podcast, thank you so much for being here. This episode felt so fun. Again, I cannot believe that we're almost at 90 episodes and this is our first time recording one like this, because I don't know if you can tell, but I love these conversations. They give me life. They feel so empowering. And I think I love them because it's these kinds of conversations that completely transform the way that I move through the world. And the way that I move through the world now feels much more authentic, aligned, and empowering than however I used to do it. So I love sharing these tools with you. I hope that you enjoy receiving this as much as I loved being here with you. And as always, I really love hearing from you. So open up your DMs, send me a message, let me know how this landed for you. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you want to take this any further or if there is another topic that you want to dive into. Remember, this episode was inspired by a simple question. I always say yeah, if you need anything, let me know and I'll send you a little podcast. And clearly I'm not kidding when I say that. So let me know what you're interested in hearing about. And I'm so excited to see you on the next episode.